What's up, guys? We're back with another creepy video tonight in honor of It Chapter 2 coming out. We are going to tell some stories about creepy clowns and or clown dolls, paranormal stories that have to do with clowns, anything to do with clowns. We're gonna read it. So make sure you subscribe and join the Mermaid Gang if you like creepy paranormal videos. Subscribe if you hate clowns. I hate clowns, but for some reason I really love the It movies. I love the originals. I loved the first of the new ones, and I'm really excited to see Chapter 2. Let's get started. This is from Reddit user The Shark Dad. As always, I credit the writers in the description. But we have a video. When I was a child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, I used to have a clown hanging from the metal curtain tie racks in my room, probably because I was too young to have read or watched it. One night, my mom walked up the stairs and into my room while I was asleep because the clown was playing its song, but it hadn't had its legs pulled down. It apparently played for about 5 minutes, and I do remember my mom recording it on her old flip phone and showing me in the morning. We actually found out later in that day that on that night, my great-grandma had passed away. My mom is super adamant it was her dad sending her some sort of signal, but I would be interested to know what you guys think. Edit. I found the clown for you all. It actually plays for about 2 minutes and progressively slows down. I didn't mention this before, but when this happened, the tune didn't slow down at all. It just abruptly stopped. Hopefully in a week or so, I might be able to find the original video my mom recorded.
Hey guys, so I found the clown doll. That was kind of how it was hanging, but that was the rail that held the curtains back, and this is what I mean by it plays a song when you pull it down. So it goes on for quite a long time, but when it like fully goes up, it stops. So you can see what I mean.
It's pretty creepy. That one was really short. I mean, it's pretty creepy. It's not that creepy, but let's see what else we can find. My paranormal experiences contain a broken vase, a wind-up clown, and tapping. Also, asking for advice because I'm scared as fuck. I've been experiencing some weird stuff lately. By lately, I mean since the past 2 or 3 years. Even though I did experience some paranormal activity when I was little, but it wasn't as often. I remember my friends and I would mess around trying to do different types of summoning. It got to the point where they would mess around with the Ouija board while I stood and watched, making fun of it. Probably a huge mistake. Do you think? Fast forward to 2016. I had a vase in my room on top of my drawer. I was walking around my room looking down on my phone when I for some reason felt the need to look up. The vase passed right by my face, missing me by inches. It was as if someone threw it. I still don't really have an explanation for that. Just the fact that it was probably something paranormal. No, the vase wasn't on the edge. Rest in peace to my vase. A few months passed by, nothing weird has happened until, well, I'm alone at home. Of course. I was walking down the hall with my flashlight on since it was around 2 or 3 a.m. and I see an orb passing by the mirror at the end of the hall. I quickly made my way to my room and hoped my cat would fight off the spirit. Well, cats are assholes, so doubt it. Don't get offended if you're a cat lover. I love cats. But if you are a cat lover, then you know cats are assholes. 2017 came around and nothing bad happened. Everything was pretty chill until, well, a wind-up acrylic clown I had on my closet, and that hasn't been moved from there in about 10 years, started playing. It was really creepy. That clown was a gift from my great-grandmother. She gave it to me when I was 6 or 7. She passed away shortly after giving it to me. I told my mom about it and she brushed it off. The clown is old, maybe it was just letting the pressure out, she said. Nah, that wasn't it. 2 months later, she heard it. The clown playing in my room once again. Now she believed me. I was so terrified I barely slept that night. Hurricane Maria came right after. I was staying at a friend's house the day it passed by. I was alone in the guest room and it was probably around 3 a.m. There's no one awake, only me, because I couldn't handle the heat. Besides the wind and the rain, I started hearing some hushed voices by the window as if someone was talking outside. Of course, no one would be outside in the middle of a hurricane. A week after that, I started feeling like someone was watching me from the corner of my room. It still happens. There's just moments where I'm standing in my room and I feel someone watching me. Then I started to feel the following few months after it had finally came out of the room. Either I'm in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the living room, I feel like someone is standing behind me or right beside me. Then I started feeling as if someone was sitting on the bed. It still happens. This is why I'm writing this now. I felt some tapping and someone sitting down on my bed. I'll get to the tapping part now. Then hearing my name being called. Fast forward to January this year. I started feeling tapping. I could be sleeping and someone would tap me awake. Thinking it was my mom, I would wake up like for school. Nope, it was 2 a.m. and no one was in my room. This tapping continued. It got to the point where I didn't only feel it at home, I felt it at the supermarket, at school, and it was starting to piss me off since it was often. I was even asking my friend if she was pranking me or some shit. She wasn't. Last week, I saw a shadow on the mirror in the hall. Once again, I had the flashlight on. It disappeared seconds after. My sister's imaginary friend, the waving clown. Oh, hell no. So there was this story surrounding my family for years now. When my older sister was around 5 or 6, she would go to our grandparents' house every day and play with her old porcelain dolls on the balcony. No, the strange part is not the dolls. She remembers very vividly having this happen to her every day, as if it's engraved onto the back of her mind like some sort of traumatic experience. But she would see on the building across from her a clown at the top, waving at her and greeting her. This happened every single day. She had said nothing until she grew older and began mentioning it. Everyone just thought it was an ordinary case of imaginary friends. The area that the house is located is just full of old apartment buildings, same as my grandparents' house. Hearing the story and visiting there just feels so off to me. I always sensed the dark aura in that house, but I would excuse it as the gloomy vibe that old people usually emit. Just something about that house is freaky, and every time I sleep there I have nightmares. My grandparents are fine. My parents say there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm 18 and not a child anymore, and it still feels weird being there. The building across is still there and I never see anything. I just wanted to share this and hoping for some insight on why I feel so strange there, or if my sister really just had a wild imagination, because till this day it still upsets her. I believe her. Creepy clown that only I saw. Okay, so here it goes. As the title says, I saw a creepy clown and it followed me, but apparently nobody else saw it. It was Easter. I was around 7 years old and we went to the local park. They had the works. Egg hunt, clowns, cotton candy, and your typical Easter stuff. I don't know where you from, but who the fuck has clowns for Easter? Who? Well, I wanted to get a balloon animal from the clown that was working there. Let me tell you a little side story. At our local fair that we have every year, whenever I was younger, I used to go with my cousin, and there would always be this big ass clown, like 20 feet tall. He was on these big stilt things and he would ride a ginormous tricycle, but like he was huge, and it was huge, like way, like big, hella big. So whenever I would see him, I would run up under the shelter where I knew he couldn't fit. Because I don't do clowns. When I was little and my mom took me to the circus, I screamed. I screamed my freaking head off. She wasted her damn money. I'm still terrified of clowns. I don't play with that shit. If I saw a clown today, if we went to the fair this year and I saw that clown, I will still go under that shelter and hide from him. I don't do clowns. So the fact that she wanted to just walk up to a clown and get a balloon from him, have you seen it? You clearly have not seen it. I wanted to get a balloon animal from the clown that was working there. I remember it was a group of kids asking him for a balloon, and then all of a sudden it felt like it was just me and him. Like I was just looking at a different clown and then the other kid. He was drunk. I remember the smell, and he grinned at me creepily. I didn't even get my balloon. I backed out after that. I went on with my day at the park, and I drew stick figures, colored things, and hunted eggs. The whole time I saw the creepy clown just standing in the background looking at me, but nobody else saw him. He was dressed in the classic white collar, red and white stripes, no clown hair. He was bald with blue blush and red lips and big eyes. He looked dirty. Well, we left, walked back home, and I can remember him following us home. I told my mom and my brothers, but nobody saw him. I was scared, clutching to my mom. I was a dramatic child, so she didn't care. We go to our apartment, and he didn't follow us. He just stayed in the hallway and that led up to our apartment. I was so relieved. I still felt unsure and creeped out. But at home, I played with my brothers and my friends, colored, ate food, you know, normal kid stuff. Well, bedtime comes, and we were renting a room, all four of us. So my two brothers slept on the beds. My mother and I slept on the floor. I woke up scared, and I was facing my brother's bed, and since I'm on the floor, I saw under his bed, and there he was, the creepy clown. I could only see his face. He looked like he was laughing with his tongue out. I nearly shit my pants. I quickly turned over, grabbed my mom, and there he was, standing in front of my bedroom door. He was full body, coming closer to me. I turned into my mother's armpit and started yelling in a little ball and woke my brothers and my mother. I never saw him again after that. That was a ghost. Period. Or a demon. In my opinion, if it's a clown ghost, it's a demon. Like it. There's no way you ever watched it. Or you would have never even thought to try to get a balloon from a clown. Do y'all remember that clown problem we had back in like 2016? What the fuck was that? What was that? I don't know. 2016, back when creepy clowns were running around terrorizing the US, my family and I went to Minnesota for the Halloween break. Y'all get a Halloween break? Who does that? Our school ain't give us no Halloween break shit. The kids still go to school on Halloween. Now, where you from? We were there for a week to see old friends and family. The plane ride up was great, and so was the week up until that Wednesday. My grandpa said we could stay over the whole time we were there. My sister and I were home alone for 2 to 3 hours having fun. Then I went back upstairs to the kitchen for a glass of water. I looked out of the window to the backyard, which 10 feet away from it, a clown was standing there looking at me. Hearing about all the clown reports on the news, it scared the shit out of me. I reached for the pocket knife my dad gave to me. I blinked and it was gone. I ran downstairs and told my sister, I think I just saw a creepy clown. We freaked the hell out. I told her, if it gets any closer, I'm gonna call the cops. Nothing out of the ordinary happened until dinner, when there was a thud on the wall. My grandpa brushed it off for the neighbor's dog. My grandpa lives in a duplex, so it probably was a dog. My parents were out on an all-night business meeting and weren't there, thus not knowing about it. Thursday, my sister and I met old friends in the next city over. I told my friends what happened. They said that there was a news report about the same clown abducting 2 11-year-old kids in the same city we were staying in. My friends asked to stay the night when we heard banging on the front door. My friend's father is a police officer. He opened the door, ready to grab his pistol, to find nobody was there. Friday, I went back to my grandpa's house. He opened the door and said, "There was pounding on the wall again, and then it moved to the door. It scared the shit out of me." Saturday, my sister and I tagged with my grandpa to visit his sister in the nursing home. We checked in, and the resident nurse walked us to my grand aunt's room. My grand aunt is a happy-go-lucky person and still is to this day. But that day, she wasn't. That day, she was just sitting in bed staring out the window with a face void of emotion. Then she turned her head and her face contorted into a scared worry. Then she said, "They're here." Sunday after church, we were invited to a youth group meeting by my friend. Grandpa dropped us off 2 hours early because he had something to do. I can't remember what he had to do. We walked to a park across the road from the church. We played for a while. Later, we walked around the park remembering old memories. Then I saw a clown. I'm serious, it was the same fucking clown that had been terrorizing me all week. 90 minutes later, the youth group event started. I told a friend what happened, who told the group leader. When he heard about it, he was on guard. Monday was Halloween. Mom asked me to walk my sister around to get candy. Mom even face painted me into Terminator. She was the best before it got her. Coming back to Grandpa's house, the same stupid clown from the youth group, which was the one that kidnapped the two 11-year-olds, crept up behind us. He grabbed my shoulder. I turned around, grabbed my knife, and slit his wrists, and he ran off. The next day, we packed up and went back to Florida, and I have seen him every Halloween since. It scares me to think that me and my sister were his next victim on many occasions. What I don't get is that every day we were up there, a news report about a kidnapped 11-year-old would repeatedly play on cue at 5 o'clock. I was 14 and my sister was 10. 3 years later, and it's been 2 years since my mom has disappeared. I know who did it. The clown did it. My sister has forgotten the clown and claims it to be fake, but I haven't. As I finish this, there's banging on the walls and it's moving towards the door. It's the clown. We're gonna read one more because I feel like this video is hella long. The clown. This one is painfully obvious. I'll never forget the day my parents came home with that damn life-size animatronic clown. Oh, fuck no. This thing was hideous. It stood well over 6 feet, was paper thin, with gangly arms and scrawny legs. The suit it wore was pinstriped, and its top hat was similar to the one Abe Lincoln wore. Its face was painted pale white, and it had a smile that stretched from ear to ear, revealing a smattering of yellow pointed teeth. Initially, I didn't realize it jumped forward while simultaneously laughing maniacally when you approached it. After being tricked by my dad and nearly losing control of my bladder, I turned off the switch and left it that way. It was the beginning of October. That meant that it would be an entire month of this thing standing, lurking in our living room. Every Friday night, my parents would go on a date. They would say it's to keep things fresh in their marriage. Whatever their reasoning, I know that it means an entire night of me basically doing what I want without interruption. Most of the time, that consisted of watching horror movies I'm not allowed to see, ordering pizza, and playing on the game system until I crash. But on this one particular Friday, it was a horrific experience. It was one that to this day is still hard to talk about. I was plopped on my beanbag chair, controller in hand, dominating online play with Halo. Not to sound cocky, but dominating as usual. I hadn't died the entire round until my parents barged into my room without even knocking. They startled me, causing me to take my eyes off the game and immediately be struck by a damn rocket launcher. "Alright, son, we're headed out," my dad announced as he rubbed my head. "Money for pizza is on the counter, no wild parties, and most of all, have fun." My mom gave her usual spiel. I shook my head in understanding and resumed the game play immediately. This prompted them to walk out of my room. After several more rounds of playing, I realized my bladder was going to explode and I was forced to walk downstairs to use the restroom. As I walked past the clown, I could have sworn something moved in the corner of my eye. I wasn't sure what, seeing as it was out of focus. I turned and looked at the clown, examining if anything was out of place. Everything appeared right where it should be. I went into the restroom, and once I finished, I started washing my hands when all of a sudden, I heard the clown's maniacal laugh. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the bathroom door and cautiously walked back towards the living room to see what triggered the clown to laugh. There was nothing, or nobody around. Only the clown and I. The weird part is that I turned off the sound to the clown after the first scare. I guess it's possible that my dad would have turned it back on to mess with me. I headed back to my room and ordered pizza through the app and resumed gameplay. The doorbell rang a few times and I sprung up from my beanbag chair. I snagged the cash off of the table and opened the door. A geeky looking delivery guy stood in the doorway. "That'll be $23.20, he said, holding his hand out. I handed him the money, told him to keep the change, and hurried back inside. 4 slices later, and several wings. I nearly couldn't move, I was so stuffed. My eyelids started to become heavy, and I drifted in and out of consciousness. During a moment, my eyes were closed. The sound of glass breaking brought me back to life. I jumped up, and rather than run out and play hero, I stood fear-stricken for several moments. My heart thundered in my chest, sweat from my palms and forehead. Nothing happened during that period, so I headed for my door. Silence had befell the home. Silence to the point where I could hear my own breathing. I still moved cautiously, even despite there being no further noises. Slowly I approached the shattered glass on the floor. It was a plate that wasn't left out in a position that could have fallen on its own. I turned to the clown and it just stood there, smirking. Had I gone crazy for suspecting the clown? Of course I had. I laughed at myself and a thought came to mind. What if I or somebody else had left the plate to where it could have fallen? I swept up the glass and dumped the pieces in the trash. I took one more look at the clown and headed upstairs to my room. By this time, my adrenaline had woken me up. I had grown exhausted of video games, so I started surfing the internet. Within minutes, I drifted off into sleep. A scratching noise woke me up. It was a loud, continuous scratching. It sounded as if it was coming from inside the wall. I walked out to the hallway just to see if there was anybody. The scratching had stopped. I inched down the hallway and the scratching resumed. I followed its sound and it was in fact in the wall. I tapped on the wall and the scratching stopped. A moment of silence passed and then a tap that mirrored mine came from inside the wall. I tapped 3 times in rapid succession. Again, 3 taps that mirrored mine came from inside the wall. "Hello?" I yelled as close to the wall as possible. I expected to hear a voice that echoed mine, but it was completely silent. I tapped and scratched a couple more times, but there was no more noise. There was nothing, only me standing there looking like a dummy. I was still creeped out nonetheless. I hurried to my parents' room, but they weren't in there. It was just me and the other 2,000 square foot of my home. Where had they been all night? They would have usually been home by this point. I tried calling, but their phones went straight to voicemail. I called my friend Edward, and surprisingly, he answered. Without admitting I was scared, I did something I knew would get him over. Challenged him to a round of Halo multiplayer. Edward arrived rather quickly. "That's a creepy-ass clown," he remarked as we walked through the living room. It ain't too bad, but I tried to be tough despite being more scared than he appeared. "Do your parents have any alcohol?" Edward asked with his fingers crossed. Edward was what most would call a troublemaker. He always claimed to those that said that he just liked to have fun. It didn't bother me though because he was a great friend. Honestly, the only friend I had. "They do not," I answered, trying to sound as convincing as I could. He looked at me with disbelief. "Bull, they always have a stash here. You just point me in their direction and I'll take it from there." I shook my head no. He waved me off and we headed upstairs and dove right into gameplay. He whooped my ass the first few rounds. Usually that's how it went. I'd start off slow and by the 4th round I would be kicking his ass. Edward paused the game and stretched. "Gotta use the bathroom." "The one up here is broken. You'll have to use the one downstairs." Edward sprung up and walked out of the room. I stared at the pause screen for what seemed like an eternity. Edward still hadn't returned from the restroom. I stood up and went downstairs to check on him. The bathroom door was open and Edward was nowhere around. "Very funny, but you can't scare me," I yelled through the house over my thundering heart. No response. He was really trying. To be honest, his tactic to scare me was working. I looked towards the clown and in its grip was Edward's hat. Slowly, I approached the gangly, skinny figure. It stood tall in front of me as I stopped and debated or not on grabbing the hat. I started to reach for it and the clown fell forward by a few inches. My heart jumped out of my chest and I leaped back. I yelled out an exclamatory word. Before I decided to man up and lean in to grab the hat, I took a deep breath in and held it. I snatched the hat quickly. Immediately, I felt a dampness. I looked down to my hand and my fingers were covered in blood. I looked to the clown and his gaze was upon me. Even looked as if his grin had gotten a little wider. "Edward," I screamed at the top of my lungs. "It worked. I'm scared, okay?" Still no response from Edward. I pinched myself to see if I would wake up. I didn't. I hurried back to the room where my phone was. If my parents didn't answer, I knew 911 would. I snagged my phone and dialed my dad as quick as humanly possible. Again, straight to voicemail. I did not hesitate to dial 911 and report the emergency I was having. My friend was missing and there was blood. I shouted into the phone at the operator. After informing me an officer would be out quickly, I threw my phone onto my bed and hurried back downstairs. I ran through the kitchen and slipped on a puddle of blood. My head hit the floor, knocking me unconscious. When I came to, blood was dripping from the ceiling onto my forehead. I rolled out of the way and wiped my face with my shirt. I looked to the ceiling and a couple more drops fell and hit the floor. I pulled myself up onto the counter and reached to try to move the ceiling tile. Something heavy made it impossible. I exerted all my strength and it budged, but only a little. One last time with all of my strength, I pushed on it and from the ceiling fell my friend's body. He hit the floor with a loud thud. "Edward?" I hopped off the counter and shook my friend. He was unresponsive. I turned to look towards the clown. He stood in its same spot, smiling. I grabbed a kitchen knife from its holder and held it up as I walked. The knife shook as my nerves were getting the best of me. This time when I approached the clown, I didn't just stand silent. I yelled and demanded he do something. His head slightly turned and his eyes dropped down to where they were looking at me. I went to stab it and see if I could hurt it, and its arm dropped down from its side, hitting my wrist and knocking the blade out of my hand. I stood absolutely still, fear-stricken by what had just occurred. A loud popping noise drew my attention to the feet of the clown. Its right foot had come off the stand, followed shortly by its left foot. Despite it being closer, I couldn't bring myself to move. It's almost as if I was truly frozen in place. It took another short step towards me. Its arms made a cracking noise as it outstretched them towards me. Once within reach, I luckily became unstuck and started to run. Its pace picked up as it followed in pursuit. Its movement was weird and unsettling. It didn't put one foot in front of the other. Instead, its feet never moved as it hobbled after me. I managed to make it to the front door and sprint out of my house. I was immediately met by a police officer. He placed me in the back seat of his squad car and went inside. He found my friend's body, but told me there was no clown. The clown was gone. He didn't believe me when I told him what had happened. Nobody did. Who can blame them? My parents showed up the next morning to find me detained in a cell, ranting, mumbling about the clown. My dad told them there was never a clown. So I sit in a psych hospital room now. Every waking moment is spent staring out of the little square window as I await for that clown to return. Yeah, we're gonna stop there. We're gonna stop right there. That's all I can handle. Yeah, I'm done. Okay, so we're gonna stop there. I'm done with this shit. I cannot continue with these clown stories. I'm freaked out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was very entertaining for you. This shit freaks me out. So I really hope that you enjoyed these and that it scared you at least a little bit. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. Make sure that you join the Mermaid Gang if you want to be around for more. Turn on my notifications. So leave me a clown emoji below if you made it all the way through this video. Thank you so much for watching if you did. Make sure you also click the link in my description for our family channel if you want to see more of like my husband and Major and like vlogs and stuff, mukbangs, challenges, stuff like that. And we out.